Why we use this keyword in C Sharp? Well, this keyword is used a lot in C Sharp. You must have seen it, of course, a lot in the C Sharp example codes. This keyword actually refers to the current object. If you use this dot something, it refers to the current object, or variable. Uh, if there is an ambiguity between variables of functions, then we can also use this. For example, in case of class constructor, you must have seen this. I will show you this with the help of an example. Um, it, let's see the uses to invoke current class constructors. You can use this. To instance variables of current class, you can use this, and arguments to function calls, arguments to constructor call, and current class instance. Now let me explain you this with the help of an example. So let me show you first how you use this keyword with the variables. Let's suppose we have a class with the name, let's say its name is car. And in this class, you have an integer, which is wheel, number of wheels, you can say num wheel, whatever wheels. You have an int with num underscore doors. So this is num underscore wheel. And then you have a constructor of this class, which is car. It also takes int num underscore wheels and int num underscore doors as arguments. And then, of course, if you write here num underscore wheels is equal to num underscore wheels, you're trying to assign this parameter to this class variable, then it causes ambiguity. You don't know which num wheel is this, which num wheel is being assigned to which num wheel, right? Are we assigning this to this, or we are assigning this to this? We want to assign this to, because outside the class we will have an object. We will say new car, and we will put two variables. Let's say number of wheels is 4, number of doors is, let's say, 2. So this is going to correspond to this variable, and this argument is going to correspond to this variable in the constructor of the car, of course. So so to remove this ambiguity, we need to use this dot. We will use this with these variables, the variables inside the class, and that's why we need this parameter here. Similarly, this dot, this numDoors is equal to num underscore doors, which is passed through this argument here. So as said, if there is ambiguity between variables of functions, we can also use it. You see, there is ambiguity between this variables of this function and these variables that are defined here. That's why we use it. Also, we set that to instance variables of current class, so to this is the current class we have. To this instant variables, we use this keyword. So this is one of the uses of this keyword. Let me explain you the other use. Okay, let me explain you how you can use now this keyword with constructors. Let's say you don't have only one constructor, but another constructor of the same class car, which is a default constructor, of course, with no arguments and parentheses. And you want to call this constructor, which is the default constructor of the class, or constructor with no parameters, in this overloaded constructor, or constructor with arguments. Then you can also use, before this, you want to call this default constructor, so you can use this car to call the default constructor. You can have anything. Maybe there is some print statement or anything, whatever. We are in the car class, you can want to print it here, or whatever, for whatever reason you want to call this default constructor. So this can also be used to call the default. So what is the scope of the variables? The scope of the variables is in C sharp, is like class level scope, local level, global level, loop level scope. These are the four kind of scope levels of the variables that we have in C sharp. Global variables, are the variables that can be accessed from anywhere, outside the class. And you don't need to instantiate a class also for that. And C sharp actually doesn't directly support global variables. So we use this static keyword, static int, for example, I0. So then we can use this variable just using a class name. Let's say if it is if inside a class A, then we can simply in any other class anywhere in the project we can use a dot I to access this I, this variable. So this is kind of a global variable. What is a class level variable? Class level variable is the same. It's defined inside the class, but without this static keyword. In this case, in the case of class variables, of course, you have to create an object of the class. So they have, this object specific scope, So let's say if you have an a underscore object of this class, then a underscore object can access I if it is, of course, non-static. It's not defined global. Local level variable is a variable which is defined within a function of a class. Let's say it's a function. Here is a variable defined int j is equal to 99. Then this j has only scope within this function, and out of this function it's not known. So this is called a local level variable. And what is a level? Loop level variable, let's say we have a function. Inside this function we have a loop, let's say for each loop or for loop I is equal to 0 to whatever 100. And then in this loop body we use, in this loop body, for loop body, we use some variable, let's say, or we define some variable, whatever. And then this variable has scope only within the parenthesis or within this loop body. This is called a loop variable scope. So this was a very simple thing actually. I hope you understand it. So what are wrapper classes in C sharp? Wrapper classes in short are the classes which are actually, which are encapsulating other classes, which is normally done to, if the inner class is very complex, so normally we create a wrapper around it and then we expose this functionality of the inner class to the outside world and we can use it in other classes. As an example, I can tell you that let's say we have a class, let's say car, and this car class needs some, wheel class to, with to be to implement the wheel, kind of to attach the wheels to it, kind of, as a components. So uh, we will have some, we will wrap this wheel class in some other class because we don't want to know how this wheel is created, some wheel wrapper, and then this wheel wrapper will be used inside the car class to kind of attach those wheels to this car, and this car class does not know how this wheel was created, so this is how these wrapper classes are concealing the inner classes which they wrap, and to kind of hide the complexity of those classes. So normally what is done is that we this wrapper class actually takes the wrap class as an argument to it simply, and then it provides the functionality to the outside world. So it's as simple as that. So this wrapper class will simply take in its constructor, this wheel wrapper constructor will take this wheel class as an argument, and simply use its functions and whatever, and kind of expose the simplified kind of result to the outside world. So simply the car class can then use this wheel wrapper. So that's how it is. Read only. So what is read only keyword? Read only keyword in C sharp is just like the final keyword in Java. Whenever you declare a key of a variable final, let's say if you have a variable integer I1 which is declared final, and we assign initialize to a value of 10, we cannot re-initialize it to another value of 20. We cannot assign it to another value during the course of the program or in that class, because final means this variable can be assigned a value only once or initialized only once. In the same way, read only in Java means that the variable, for example, in Java, sorry, in read only in C sharp, because in Java there is no read only. In Java we have final. So read only in C sharp is just like final in Java. So you assign a variable read only keyword. For example, read only int I1 is equal to 10, and that's it. You cannot reinitialize it to some other value or assign it some other value. So that's the concept. Whenever we want that a value of a variable should not be changed, should remain the one that we gave it at the initialization, then we should use the keyword read only in C sharp. Of course, read-only can also be used with object reference. For example, if we use read-only keyword with the arrays and lists, then this read-only keyword corresponds to the to the reference of that object. And in that case, you can of course change the contents of the array and list. The containing objects or data types, but you cannot change the object reference because it always corresponds to the same place in the memory. There's another keyword in C sharp which is called const, and it is the same as read only. So you can use also const instead of read only. And the next thing is that C sharp read only can't be used with classes and functions. FUNC, yeah. So in Java, you can use this final keyword with the classes and functions also. You can declare a class final, you can declare a function final, but in C sharp, you cannot declare a class as read only or a function as read only. You can only use read only function, sorry, read only keyword with the variables in C sharp. You cannot use it in C sharp with the classes and functions. So that's it.